Judy Cooper had been sitting all alone watching TV for the evening. She hadn't seen her husband Jim in quite some time, and since they were both in their 80s, she figured that she should go and check on him. That was when she saw what her dog Sally was doing, and she knew she had to call 911 immediately. Judy and Jim Cooper were an elderly couple from Little Rock, Arkansas. They were in their 80s and had been through a lot and seen a lot in their time together. They still loved each other deeply after all these years. That was why Judy's heart broke when she saw the horrific scene in their bedroom that awful day. Sally was adopted by Jim and Judy from a rescue shelter. The elderly couple knew they needed an extra companion around the house with all their children living very far away. The moment they set eyes on Sally, they instantly fell in love with her. The old couple was soon to find out that everything they thought they knew about Sally was a lie. The Coopers had been broken into in the past, and it had caused them serious distress, especially with them being old. The elderly couple knew that they had to recruit a furry friend to act as their guard dog. They decided to put their trust in Sally. When Judy called 911 that day, she knew that history was repeating itself. When Judy and Jim first moved into their neighborhood after they got married, it had been a quiet, charming place to live. However, over the years after the kids had grown up, the couple began to notice it becoming rather rough and seeing drug dealers and burnt-out cars. What happened to Jim that night was worse than anything they'd ever seen. The night of the attack, Judy had been sitting watching all her favorite shows all evening. The perfect escape. Her husband Jim had left the room silently about 4 hours ago. Her mind wandered back to him. Was he okay? Was something up with him? And Judy would be left wishing she went into her husband sooner. After sitting alone for hours, Judy eased herself out of her seat and made a cup of tea. It was getting late at this stage. It was 10:30, which was well past her bedtime. Poor old Jim, she thought. She better go check on him as they weren't getting any younger. She was not prepared for the panic she was about to go into moments later. Judy made her way to the couple's bedroom. Straight away, she noticed the bedroom light was still on, which was very odd. She creaked open the door and got the biggest shock of her life. Sally was lying on top of Jim, her tongue hanging out, panting. She instantly knew something was seriously wrong with Jim. Judy went over to Jim as quickly as she could and looked him up and down. His face was ghastly white and his pulse was very slow. Something was horribly wrong with her husband. She knew what she had to do. She raced to the kitchen as fast as her legs would take her and dialed 911. What the ambulance staff told her nearly killed her too. "Your husband is very lucky to be alive, madam. How did you notice what was wrong with him if he was motionless?" asked the paramedic. "My dog Sally was on top of him panting. She must have sensed he wasn't well. I honestly would have just thought he was asleep if I hadn't seen her," said Judy with tears in her eyes. Jim owed Sally his life. She was about to be rewarded in the best way possible. Jim had had a stroke in his sleep, and Sally knew something wasn't right with him. Her warning had alerted Judy to call 911. Jim owed Sally his life. That was why Judy decided to write to Little Rock City Council about Sally's bravery and service. One councilwoman saw her letter and decided to give Sally exactly what she deserved. Sally made history by being the first dog to be honored by Little Rock City Council as a hero. She was brought into the award ceremony where the councilwoman gave her her very own medal. Jim and Judy were so proud. They knew that there was something special about Sally the day they first adopted her. Jim didn't realize, however, that he'd end up owing her his life.